Okay. Right, now you mentioned Wembley actually, and Andrea Hall said, "Do you still have the shirt that you wore in the Wembley live video?"
No,
No.
no, but I do have a lot of the suits that I wore. There's this jacket that I wore. Um, was it on the It's Over video? No, that was a jean jacket. Um, I had all this designer design all these clothes. A guy called Shamel, and he was got this guy, and he had a stall in Hyper in Kensington. So me and Boom would go down, and I think the leaving when we did the video for Leaving Me Now, those are Chamel suits. I've still
Oh,
got
okay.
all that stuff, because
Have you?
like padded shoulders, out here, which I couldn't get into now for love nor money. But I had them all cleaned and make sure the moths haven't got them. And I said to the kids I should put them out for charity, or
Hmm.
and Holly said no, keep them, Dad, because it's like it's a kind of keepsake. Well, okay, maybe you guys can wear them.
I've got another question. Funny enough, it involves. Hang on a minute. Oh, well, I can't see it. The Levi poster. Oh, down there.
Yeah.
Fun enough, the one I've got on my wall is actually signed by Mike, Mark, and Boom, but not yourself for some reason. So I'll have to send it to you. But he asked, "What do you feel about that Levi poster?"
If I could be completely honest, I'm not happy about it at all.
Right. Yeah, he
Because
kind of suspected that would be the answer. To be honest, that was from Peter Phelps. Yeah.
what happened was that all of a sudden we have this new management, and it's moving so fast, and all of a sudden we're being told that Levi's are going to sponsor the tour. And for a band with the credibility we had, to then have like a photo shoot with Levi's with Levi logo on, I thought it was the worst thing we ever did, and was one of actually it was the whole distasteful nature of that kind of thinking was one of the reasons why I left. Because I was already halfway out the door anyway. To truth be
Right.
told, but
Yeah.
but the thing is, there was obviously problems in the band, and I had left at one time already and came back, which probably may not have been the best thing. But like it was a cheap shot, I think, and we didn't need to do it, and I
Mm.
think it was. Well, I was very disappointed in that because when you look at World Machine, what we are on World Machine is a band that arrived at a certain moment, and we look pretty good in those clothes in the shot. We look pretty cool and groovy. We are who we are in that moment. But to then have some corporate American company coming in and putting their logo on your album just because you want to get tour support is like
Mm.
it's cheap. It's a cheap shot,
Right.
and I don't think any of us, if we got to have that opportunity, would do that again. It was
Mm.
a mistake. It was a mistake then, and
Mm. Well, as I said,
the thing,
I reckon Peter asked that question because he knew the answer you were going to give. I would reckon.
the thing is, I mean, what you have with a band like Level 42 is because of how when you first came to see us and you loved it and you would come see all these gigs. What you do over a period of time is build up this trust with people, where you're not going to fob them off with a substandard performance. You might have gigs that doesn't happen in the same way that other gigs happen, but we always used to try and give 100%, and we always used to try and do that on our recordings and try and make great recordings, and we wouldn't ever go that'll do. So we build up a trust with an audience, and they putting themselves out uh, in time and money and all these things to come and see you and follow you. And when you do something like that with the Levi's cover, it's very easy to destroy all that trust.
Mm.
People go, "What are they doing? What are they up to?" That's not what we signed up.
To
That's
be
not
honest
what
with
we
you,
believe in.
bearing in mind I have seen the band 65 times in five
Yeah,
different
yeah,
countries. To me, it's just another thing sleeve inside an album, and
yeah.
the fact that I've got it signed is another piece of history to me. So the actual bits behind it,
Has
you've
it got,
explained,
has it got the logo on it? The Levi's logo on it?
yeah, next to the
Yeah,
hang on, very quickly, if I can get this. Yeah, there. So the Levi's there.
yeah. Oh, so sick. Oh,
Right, mine.
anyway,
I've got. Last question comes in. Now, this could be quite controversial. This is from Richard Drain, and he wants to know, were the British or Dutch fans best to play to in the early 80s?
no, you can't. You can't compare these things. I mean, like for some reason, we seem to generate a certain excitement amongst our fans, which was pretty universal.
Yeah,
When we were doing even the early gigs we were playing in Gillingham or 06 at Southend,
yeah.
we were
I was
getting
at
a
both of
reaction.
those.
yeah, we're getting a great reaction. And then we went to play in Paradiso in Amsterdam. We did these club gigs in Germany the first winter. Getting this reaction is incredible. And we so I wouldn't compare. I remember like doing a gig for the fan club gig. Well, it was supposed to be a fan club gig in Guildford in '86. We did a one-off show primarily for fan club members, and it was like people just screaming their heads off, like as if it was like the Beatles or something. It was an incredible feeling, and that was just when Lessons in Love had come out, I think.
Right.
And also later, when we were doing the Running in the Family tour, we were playing the Ahoy in Rotterdam, which is 12,000 people.
Wow.
We did 2 nights, and like people, the audience was screaming from the moment the
Wow.
support band left the stage until we came on, and it's like, what is that? So like, there's this kind of intensity to the support that we had and you can see that even live at Wembley. There's a lot of energy,
Mm.
even in such a big space. We've
Mm.
generated this energy. So I think what we had with the connection with the audience was pretty universal. Of course, when you go to America, we had to start again. We didn't have that
Yes.
history in America. We had to
Mm.
do a club tour and a support tour and try and catch up. But in Europe, by the time we get to World Machine, we've been touring for nearly 5 years, or 5 years actually.
Yeah.
And it was like, going to Holland, going to Scandinavia, going to Germany, going to all over Europe, and all over the UK.
Mm.
So we were relentless in getting people on our side. The audiences were amazing,
Mm.
incredible. Yeah, but
I,
wouldn't want to compare.
I'd just like to mention Wembley because I was extremely fortunate. I'd actually been out the country. I worked in Tenerife, came back, landed at about 11 o'clock, and in the car on the way home, my mum said, "Oh, Level 42 are playing at Wembley tonight." So I got on a train. Somehow I ended up at the backstage door and called Paul Crockford and said, "I haven't got a ticket, Paul. Can you help me?"
Wow.
Now, not only did he let me in, I actually stood to the side of the stage as you guys actually walked past me, said hello on your way onto stage, and said hello to me on my way back. Now, I stood there and wasn't playing, but I can tell you, looking out at 10,000 happy faces, do you know what? I'm getting adrenaline going through me right now, telling you about it. So, what's it like for you playing? And I know you've always said that Glastonbury, 60,000 people, I think Glastonbury. You've always said that was the best gig of your career in Level 42. What's it? How does it feel when you walk on stage and you get that roar?
Well, it's strange because like when you first go out and play to. I think the first gig we did with the Students' Union Bar at the Guildhall School of Music, and we were just amazed that people actually got up to dance.
Ah,
What? People actually like this. And then when you first do a gig, I think we did one of the first important gigs we may have done with Love Meeting Love was do Hammersmith Palais with an all day with Shack Attack and all
yes.
those kinds of bands, the Brit Funk bands, and the fact that people are applauding you and loving what you're doing, it's just a shock that people actually like it. That's the thing you have to get over. And it goes on for a couple of years. I remember like when we first started doing concert tours, maybe by 82, we were doing places like the Portsmouth Guildhall, 12, 1,500, 2,000 seaters. And it was just so absolutely shocking to me. And I think that year we also did our first gig at the Hammersmith Odeon.
Mm.
And like, if we did one gig at the Odeon, it was like, what? What happened? So it takes a long time to adjust to the idea of it. But by the time you get to, say, when we're doing Wembley, it was an incredible moment. But you have so much to remember because there's so much going on. I've got the Lindrum sword. I've got to set that preset on the electronics. I've got to turn the claptrap off here. And right, I've got to count the count. What's the tempo for that song? You're actually kind of going through a whole lot of technical things just to make sure your bit works in the song,
Right.
in the whole thing. That you're not really you're not looking out going, it's a bit like when astronauts talk about when they talk about when they're involved in the whole process of flying to the moon or something like that. They can't look at the overall thing. They can only just focus on their bit, make
Mm.
sure that they don't mess their bit up. It's a bit like that with by the time we get to a stage like Wembley, I don't even have everybody in the band in my fallback. I can't because the sound is so crazy. So I've
Mm.
got the keyboards, I've got the vocals, Mark's under the riser. I don't even have the guitar or the sax in the fallback because I can't afford to not hear what I need to hear.
Right.
Maybe the sequences. So you're not even playing as an entire. I can hear Boone over in the distance. I hear the sax player over there. I can hear Annie here, but they're not all in the foldback. So you're just making sure that you make your bit work, and you know
Right.
that everybody else's bits will work with that. You know it's going to
Mm,
work, but you can't. It's not like playing in a club where you're kind of like right in the thick of it. It's a
mm.
very different environment. But if you were to do a 10,000 seat arena on your first tour, you probably have a heart attack. You may you may never recover. It'd be too stressful. You work
Yeah.
up to that,
Mm,
and you work up, by little clubs and da, 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 da,
mm. I'd,
But
I'd
yeah, I
like
mean,
to, sorry.
sorry, I never I never took it for granted. I was never blasé about it. I knew that it was an exceptional moment, but I think at that point we'd moved into the realms of being very professional in the way we presented the music, and it required a lot of concentration. So you can't look around. Yeah. So I think a lot of it passed me by. Of course, at the end you go out and you wave, and you go, my God,
Mm,
and because we did 8 nights twice, it was like,
mm,
I mean, how did we get there? It's like
mm.
unbelievable. It's funny because when I was a single parent, I had my kids with me. I used to try and admonish my son Jackson by saying, "Now listen, Jack, you've got to listen to me sometimes because I play Wembley, and he would say, no, you didn't. You played next to Wembley, the Wembley Arena, not the stadium." Okay,
um,
thank you.
I'd like to just go back to my and 8 other members of the Havering Funkfuls' first ever gig at Redbridge Technical College, because that's why we're here talking today. 3rd of April 1981. Now, I know there was only about 90 people in that audience, so we made up 10% of it, but we were the only ones right up the front encouraging you guys and giving you a bit of whoa, whoa. Um, I simply said to one of the stagehands, can I come and meet the band? Now, when we came back, you guys were more interested in what the hell the Havering Funkfuls was and what we did for a living. It was you guys talking to us. And I have mentioned this in a couple of my uploads, my vlogs, and other fans have said the same. That when they've come to meet you guys, you've engaged and been interested in the people that you're meeting, and I just want to thank you so much on behalf of everybody that has experienced that.
Thank you, Julian. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't want to do that. I mean, we were still. I think we continued to remain in shock that people would believe in it and support it to that extent. It's never something, having grown up in a little seaside town on the Isle of Wight, the idea that you could have a music career of any kind
Mm,
when you start playing the drums at the age of 15 is it's just so out of the realms of, and everybody on all my family says, well, so many people trying, you sure, but all of a sudden you find yourself in a band with an audience. You're going, what happened? How did we get here? And you know how rare, because I think Level 42 were that rarest of all breeds, which is a bunch of mates that get signed
yeah,
to travel the world, and
yeah,
do their own thing. We could have succumbed to the pressure, and we could have done a cover version here or there. We were asked to. We were, in the early days we were asked to do a cover version of Nature Boy in the Brit Funk era,
okay.
because but if we'd have done that, if we'd have done a cheap shot like that, we would never have built up the trust with our. No, we wanted to do our own thing. We wanted to make a contribution, and we were fighting for that.
Mm,
But it was just incredible that you arrive in that place. How did that happen? That was just constantly the refrain. How did we get here?
mm,
So we were never going to take it for granted. I remember like one or two times we had gigs in the first year, like playing these sort of palais around in the Midlands, like in Sheffield. And I remember I think it was a gig either in Leeds or Sheffield where we were going to do like a palais ballroom, and we got the promoter had done a runner because he hadn't promoted it properly, and there was 60 fans outside, and there was us, and like we were looking at each other going, what do we do now then? And like the promoter's gone, and there was the guy that was normally be called a Jobsworth, but he was a really lovely guy. They said, well, what do you want to do? He said, can we do the gig anyway? He said, yeah, come on in. So we got in there and set up in this bloody great big palais, and all the fans in front of the stage with the chairs, and we just played to these people, and because we thought we really we couldn't let them down, and I think we didn't do that because we wanted to impress people. We didn't do that because we wanted to try and get people. We just thought it was the right thing to do, and I think because we had that attitude with people that we genuinely got these incredibly loyal fan base, which on the other side, helped us through times, when we weren't having, like I said, when we did True Colors, we weren't having massive hits.
Mm.
I think Hot Water was got top 20, which is fine, but the label were going, well, where's the breakthrough like Earth, Wind and Fire like we wanted? But
Right.
they would come to the gigs. The label were going, well, should we continue with this and not having these big hits like we expected they'd have after standing the line? And they would come to the gigs and like sold out, standing room only. People going absolutely mad, and they couldn't get rid of us.
Mm.
The label couldn't fire us because they said they knew something was happening, and it was the audience that created that power.
Mm.
It wasn't power that we had ourselves. It was power that was given to us
Mm.
by having such a crazy loyal fan base
Yeah,
that
I
would
must
turn
admit,
up and
I mean, the
support us.
Facebook page Ultimate Level 42, there are some, I correspond, well, and through my YouTube, I correspond with other fans throughout the world, and it is a fantastic community, I have to say.
Yeah.
Now, just before we end, this picture, hopefully have I got it this time?
Move it back a bit. Move it
There
back
it
in the
is.
center.
There we go.
That's good. You go back a bit. Go back a bit. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Right, now then, there's three people. First of all, I got to tell you, when I saw this picture, I was so pleased to see the three of you back on stage, and both Lisa Bennett, Nick Harrison, and Cheryl Minter. First of all, they wanted to know, would you ever do a one-off like Boone did at Exeter in 2012? Come on, play one song and go off again. Having now seen the three of you back on stage, I know it was for Boone's tribute on the Isle of Wight, but would you ever do that again?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't go on.
Okay.
I mean, Level 42 are a different entity now. They're actually
Yes.
a band. I mean, obviously, it's not like it's a band. It's whatever they are now is what Level 42 is as a band. I mean, it was a great day. It was a really not a great. It's a horrible thing. It's not
Yes,
not
I
the way to say
understand.
it. It was not a great day in any way, shape, or form. But it was an important day for us, and like the fact that we got past a lot of personal
Yes,
stuff to do
wonderful.
that. I would have been happy to do something. I mean, I did talk to the guy that runs Shadowby about doing a gig for CAMS, child and adult mental health services. Like doing some sort of thing like that would be amazing. If
Mm.
I could entice the other guys into it, but I don't think Mark would want to do that, and I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to put anybody in a position where they're uncomfortable. I think we got together, we had a hug, we played together, and we
Mm.
had a little moment, and we all reminded ourselves where the pocket was, that we all had together, and
Mm.
I think that's quite a lovely thing. I do think there's one or two things that came out of that day that I would like to maybe get the photography and some clips together to be able to sort of get everybody to agree to post something as a tribute to Boone
Yeah.
later. And we did a film on the day that was shown at the memorial that my friend Guy Press and I got all these video aids from my touring days, and I digitized all that. And there's lots
Okay,
of
cool.
Boone on stage or behind the scenes, and I put together a film that for the day that we played to Something About You. I mean, Something About You is the most enduring moment for my brother in the sense that in that moment his guitar playing came became front and center of the most successful period of the band. And the same on Lessons in Love. All of a sudden, his guitar sound and playing became this huge component in the band, whereas maybe it hadn't been until that point.
Mm.
And it should have been before. But he was always doing great guitar stuff. But for some reason, Something About You was this moment where his sound, his guitar playing, was one of the major factors in that record being successful. And the same on the guitar sounds on It's Over, the great guitar stuff he did on Lessons in Love and all these things. So I just it's a shame. I mean, it was a shame that we headed into this area of commerciality with Running the Family because I think we as a collective we had an awful lot more to give to writing together.
Mm.
And it's like in a relationship, and like an unrequited love. There's an awful lot of stuff that won't see the light of day. A lot of ideas things that could have been. But my upcoming project, I'm working with Wally, and he's all over it. I did a track with Mike. He's not. I'd like to do more with Mike, and there's something I might be able to announce in not too distant future about
Oh,
Mike
great.
and I. But the thing is, and also my album, my brother's on the album, and it's like, there's I don't know really. It's really more than I can I don't know what to say about that other than the fact I'm so grateful they've got that one thing to sort of explore with him. But yeah,
Yeah,
level 42. I'm really glad they still fly the flag for the music. They go out and play this music. They keep the flame alive, and because that they go through. I mean, apparently they've done things like Good Man in the Storm, and they've done all these other tracks, and that like Floating Life that we never played live. So it's been great. I think
yeah.
hopefully that's every time you go they'll try and do something new. That's great. But I don't think it would be. I don't think it would ever happen. No,
Okay. Phil.
me playing on the level 42 tour. Not gonna happen.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Look, I have since uh, um, Redbridge Tech, I've enjoyed a very privileged relationship with most members of the band, but in particular with you, Mike, and obviously Boone and Mark. I mean, I think we mentioned Lois earlier. I've met her, Joy. I've met her, obviously, John and Sarah. Thank you. You guys have been absolutely superb to me. I appreciate even you doing this interview. You don't have to do it, but obviously, with 40 years is a pretty great accolade to go past. Honestly, thank you so much, not just on my behalf, but the other members of the Havering Funkfuls and all Level 42 and Phil Gould fans. I really do appreciate your time in these two segments of these interviews.
Thank you, Julian. It was very, very kind of you to say that, and it works both ways. We only got to experience something that we dreamed about when we were kids because we had the support of people like you and the people that really believed in us. And we were swept along on a certain kind of enthusiasm, as you well remember how those gigs used to be.
Oh God,
It
yeah.
was like it was incredible that I mean, in 2 years before we were signed, we were sleeping on floors, and I was at the Royal Academy. I had no money. It was
Mm.
like we were all sleeping on camp beds in my brother's front room at one point, playing, the early video game, the tennis game,
God, I remember.
like
Yeah, boop, boop. Yeah.
playing that all night. I can never beat Mark for Christ's sake. But we were just playing to tennis till 3 in the morning, completely scared, And all of a sudden we have these incredibly loyal fans that are just so swept along with it. It was just incredible. We could not have had that experience without that level of support. We're the ones who had the experience. Hopefully, you guys came and you had your own experiences, in the audience and around the whole thing, and hopefully enjoying the music and stuff like that. But we got to fulfill a dream of being musicians that were listened to.
Mm.
Having been a bunch of oiks from the Isle of Wight that nobody was in, I was nobody gave a monkeys about.
Mm.
So it's kind of a quite an astonishing little journey we were all on together. And that's an exchange that we had, and I'm really glad that it was something that really meant a lot to you and a lot of other people.
Absolutely, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like it's the greatest honor a musician can have is to be the soundtrack to people's lives. It's just there's no greater honor than that. There really isn't.
Oh, that's wonderful, and I must admit, gigs have changed me quite a lot now because I get to the gig several hours earlier and basically end up chatting to 50, 60 different fans, and it's, again, I
Yeah.
mentioned it earlier, it's a fantastic community as well.
Well, and as it sprung up around the band, that's great. I really love it. I'm sorry that we couldn't have continued to produce more music together, but in a way, when you think about the fact that we produced 6 Polydor albums and Forever Now and the early tapes and a live album, considering how crazy we were with each other, because we were with a lot of infighting as well as camaraderie. But the fact that we made that much music together is quite something. Because I mean, having worked with Ken Scott, he often reminds me that he's worked with bands that didn't get past the first record.
Right.
So I think it would have been nicer to have done more. But the fact is that body of work we did do, I think, really holds up. So I'm very proud of that.
Absolutely. Phil, thank you so much. All right, and
Pleasure, Julian.
yeah, I'll see you in another 10 years.
Well, Ben, maybe see you at a gig later. If we can get the show back on the road, we can do some album launch gigs for this album.
Yeah, fantastic.
Maybe we do album launch gigs rather than like put it on the road. We could then invite a lot more people to each one, like do one in London, one in Paris, one in Rome, and get maybe, who knows? I see if I can entice Wally to do it. But we'll see. And we'll see what we can do. I mean, there's something that I can't announce now, but I'm working on, and I have there's as a four people involved, and three of them are definitely on board.
Okay.
Now I have to kind of put together the situation, and it involves people that we know about. So if we can if I can get to that place, there'll be more opportunity for collaborations
Hmm.
amongst us old level 42 musicians.
Hmm. Okay, well, whatever you put out, there's still an audience there, and yeah, I'll be front in the queue for a signed, whatever it is. I want it signed though.
All right, Jules. Yeah, you're
To my
number
collection.
one. Number one.
Lovely.
Number one on the runway, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Phil. Thank you.
Look after yourself. Stay safe.